Hey class, in this video we are going to talk about freezing action. How do we go about doing that in order to capture some action shots where they look like they're frozen in time? Hence the title, Freezing Action. Let's take a look at this image right here of this soccer player with his hair standing pretty much vertical 90 degrees. Do you think he wears his hair like that? He wakes up in the morning and his hair is going straight up? Probably not. I do know somebody who has hair that goes straight up like that. He does have a mohawk and it is pretty tall, but that's besides the point. More than likely, this person's hair is worn down, and because of gravity, it's not going to be standing like that all the time. So how do you think this image was taken? You can imagine the photographer directed the soccer player to maybe put his head down, put his hair all in front of his face, and then when he says action, he would ask the soccer player to quickly flip his head up with the hair going vertical as well, and the photographer is going to press the shutter button at the exact right moment. And timing is key here. And the timing of it reveals where the photographer pressed the shutter, and it so happened where the hair is standing straight up. But how does it look like that in the shot, as if it's pretty much still and frozen? What is the technique? So let's talk about how to capture that using your camera. So the subject looks frozen in time, hence the title of the type of photography, freezing action. And the technique behind this is using a high shutter speed. The higher the shutter speed, the faster the shutter curtain will open and close. Okay, and that will allow you to freeze the action. And probably using a higher ISO so that way you can select a higher shutter speed. How do we meter for this? How do we set this up? So find a scene where the action is going to take place, and then go ahead and set your ISO. Maybe you want to set it to 400, so that way you can achieve a higher shutter speed. Okay, so set your ISO to 400. Then you select a shutter speed that you think would freeze the action. Depending upon what you're trying to freeze, you may have to select the appropriate shutter speed. Someone walking, maybe not moving as fast, but they're still moving, versus someone running or on a bicycle or even on a car. Those are completely different speeds altogether. Okay, so let's say you wanted to do this example with the soccer player's hair going straight up. Let's pick a high shutter speed. Okay, let's just say we pick 1/500th of a second. So you set your shutter to that, and then the only thing left to do would be to adjust your aperture. While you're pointing your camera at the scene, you look through your viewfinder and you find your f-stop, your aperture dial, and move it so your meter is going to be at the 0. Okay, so once again, you set your ISO to, let's say, 400. You're shooting outside. You find a scene where the action is going to take place. Set your shutter speed to a high shutter, let's say 1/500th of a second. And then look through your camera's viewfinder and then find your aperture dial and move it until your meter is at the 0. Then that is your exposure for the scene. Then you tell the person to do their thing, right? Whether they're going to flip their hair up, or maybe you're going to take a picture of someone jumping up and catch them in midair. That's also a freezing action shot. So go ahead and experiment with that to see if you can create a freezing action photograph.